104 degrees in Phoenix, not in July, not in August, March 19th, 2026. And if you think that is the worst of it, you have not seen what is coming by Saturday. We are about to walk through the most dangerous, most record-shattering heat dome this country has seen this early in the year. But here is the thing most people are missing. This heat dome is not just baking the desert, it is expanding. Right now, as you are watching this, it is pushing into Texas, into Nebraska, into Iowa, into the Pacific Northwest. And on the other side of this ridge, 11 million people in the Ohio Valley are staring down a severe thunderstorm setup that looks like something straight out of July. Damaging winds, hail, and yes, possibly tornadoes. So if you live anywhere from Phoenix to Pittsburgh, from Las Vegas to Louisville, you need to stay right here. Because over the next few minutes, I am going to give you the exact temperatures, the exact timing, and the exact risks for more than 270 cities across the United States. And I promise you, by the 5-minute mark of this video, you will know exactly what is heading for your city and when it arrives. Drop your city in the comments right now. I will tell you exactly what to expect. Let me hit you with a number that should stop you in your tracks. 25 to 40 degrees above normal. That is not a typo. That is the temperature anomaly sitting over the western United States right now. We have a massive, anomalous upper-level ridge of high pressure parked right over the region, about 15 to 20,000 feet above the ground, and it is acting like a giant lid on a pot. It is trapping hot air underneath it, forcing it to sink, and when air sinks, it compresses and heats up. That is why Phoenix just smashed its earliest 100-degree day on record. Not just broke it, destroyed it. They hit 102 degrees on Thursday, and Saturday we are looking at 105. Now think about that for a second. Breaking heat records in the desert Southwest is extremely hard to do. These records have stood for decades, and we did not just edge past them, we blew right through them, and it is going to get even hotter. But before I get to Saturday's forecast, let me explain why this pattern is so dangerous, because this is the part most people do not understand. Stay with me here because the science behind this tells you everything about what is coming next week, too. This ridge of high pressure is not just causing heat. It is the engine driving every single weather threat across the entire country right now. On one side, you get the scorching heat and the fire danger. On the other side, where the jet stream dips down, you get the cold, the snow, and the severe storms. Same pattern, two completely different disasters. And this pattern is locked in. It is not going anywhere for at least the next 10 days. So whatever I tell you right now, multiply it, because this is not a one-day event. This is a multi-week siege. All right, let us get into the numbers, and I mean all of them. I promised you forecasts for over 270 cities, and I am going to deliver. Let us start exactly where the heat is most extreme. The desert Southwest, Phoenix, Arizona, 104 degrees right now on Thursday evening. By Saturday, we are looking at 105. That is not a summer forecast. That is a March forecast. Scottsdale, 102. Mesa, 102. Chandler, 102. Tempe, 104. Glendale, 102. Goodyear, 104. Buckeye, 104. Surprise, 104. This entire Phoenix metro area is sitting in extreme heat that should not exist for another 3 to 4 months. Move south. Tucson is at 100 degrees right now. Sahuarita, 100. Sierra Vista, 91. Move west to Yuma, 105 degrees. Welton, 105. Calexico, 104. El Centro, 104. Now go north into the Coachella Valley. Palm Springs, 106 degrees. Indio, 106. Coachella, 106. Borrego Springs, 106. These are numbers you would expect in the dead of summer, and they are happening right now in the middle of March. And here is the twist you did not see coming. This heat is not staying in the desert. It is spreading into areas that almost never see temperatures like this in March. Southern California is getting hammered. Pomona, 97 degrees. Burbank, 97. Glendale, California, 97. Pasadena, 97. Santa Clarita, 97. Simi Valley, 97. Calabasas, 97. Encino, 97. Rancho Cucamonga, 98. Fontana, 98. Ontario, California 98, San Bernardino 99, Riverside 99, Moreno Valley 97, Corona 97, Redlands 102, Loma Linda 102, Hesperia 95, Victorville 95, and even coastal areas that normally stay cool are feeling this. Los Angeles proper is at 81, Long Beach 89, Anaheim 90, Fullerton 90, Garden Grove 90, Downey 89, San Francisco 81 degrees. That is extraordinary for San Francisco in March. Now let me take you up the Central Valley because this is where a lot of agriculture is, and these temperatures matter. Bakersfield 91 degrees, Fresno 91, Stockton 90, Modesto 88, Sacramento 86, Visalia 89, Tulare 89, and all the way up through the northern part of the state, Chico at 88, Redding at 84, even places like Angels Camp at 88, and Placerville at 82. Now here is where it gets really interesting. This heat is pushing into places that have no business being this warm in March. Let us go to Nevada. Las Vegas, 91 degrees right now. North Las Vegas, 93. Laughlin, 104. Pahrump, 93. Reno, 85. Carson City, 85. Elko, 79. These are not normal March numbers for Nevada. Utah, Salt Lake City, 79 degrees. Provo, 76. Ogden, 77. St. George, 92. Hurricane, 92. Moab, 83. Kanab, 88. And for my friends who love skiing in Utah, I am sorry. This is devastating for the snowpack. This is the end of ski season, whether the resorts want to admit it or not. Colorado, Denver, 81 degrees in March. Boulder, 82. Fort Collins, 84. Colorado Springs, 77. Pueblo, 84. Grand Junction, 82. Durango, 79. Aspen, 70 degrees. Even Breckenridge is at 60. Telluride, 64. The snow is melting fast and the rivers are going to be running cold and dangerous. Idaho. Boise, 78. Idaho Falls, 74. Pocatello, 75. Twin Falls area, Gooding is at 75. Jerome, 75. These are solidly warm temperatures for a state that should still be in the grip of late winter. Wyoming. Casper, 77 degrees. Cheyenne, 76. Riverton, 77. Jackson, 66. Rock Springs, 71. And this is where I need to stop and give you a critical warning. Do not skip this part. Wyoming is facing the most dangerous fire weather conditions in the country right now. Red flag warnings are flying across central and eastern Wyoming, including Casper and Laramie. Here is why. You take this extremely hot, dry air, combine it with a strong downslope wind regime coming right off the mountains, gusts up to 35, maybe even 45 miles per hour, and relative humidity levels as low as 10 to 15%, and you have turned the entire landscape into a tinderbox. If you are in Wyoming right now, avoid any outdoor burning. Make sure trailer chains are not dragging on pavement, creating sparks. And stay hydrated if you have to be outside. This is not a drill. Montana. Billings, 72 degrees. Bozeman, 75. Helena, 72. Great Falls, 68. Butte, 67. Missoula, 68. Even Livingston is at 75. For March in Montana, these are remarkable numbers. Now let us swing into the southern plains because this heat dome is pushing hard into Texas and Oklahoma, and the numbers are staggering. Dallas, 83 degrees. Fort Worth, 82. Arlington, 83. Plano, 82. McKinney, 82. Garland, 81. Irving, 82. Grand Prairie, 83. Carrollton, 83. Louisville, 84. Denton, 82. Waco, 81. Austin, 81. San Antonio, 82. Houston, 74. Corpus Christi, 73. Laredo, 87. McAllen, 85. Brownsville, 75. Midland, 89. Odessa, 88. Lubbock, 90. Amarillo, 89. Abilene, 86. San Angelo, 86. Oklahoma. Oklahoma City, 87 degrees. Tulsa, 82. Stillwater, 85. Norman area, Noble is at 88. Enid, 84. Lawton area, Altus is at 93. Duncan, 90. Wichita Falls, Texas, right on the border, 90 degrees. And if you remember, the original forecast mentioned 96 for Oklahoma City by tomorrow. We could be looking at the first 90-degree readings of the year across much of Oklahoma, and it is still March. Kansas, Wichita, 84. Dodge City, 85. Salina, 84. Garden City, 85. Hayes, 82. Manhattan, 80. Topeka, 78. Lawrence, 79. These are numbers that belong in late May, not the third week of March. Nebraska. Omaha, 74 degrees. Lincoln 76, Grand Island 82, Kearney 83, Scottsbluff 85, North Platte 80. These are running 15 to 25 degrees above where they should be. Now, I promised you a reward at the 30-second mark, and I am going to make good on it right now. Here is the information that could save your weekend. If you are planning any outdoor activities, any travel, any events, here is the cheat sheet. West of the Mississippi, prepare for extreme heat. Carry water, wear sunscreen, limit time outdoors during peak hours between noon and 6 in the evening. East of the Mississippi in the Ohio Valley have a severe weather plan for Friday evening and again for Sunday. If you are in the Northeast, pack layers because it is going to be cold and raw with rain and possibly snow. That is your quick action guide. But do not go anywhere because the details for your specific city are coming up. Now let me pivot to what is happening on the other side of this ridge, because the same pattern creating this heat dome is about to unleash severe weather on the eastern half of the country. And this is where timing becomes everything. 11 million people in the Ohio Valley are under the gun for severe thunderstorms on Friday. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a marginal risk of severe weather covering Columbus, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Dayton, Ohio, Morgantown, West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia, Pikeville, Kentucky. The primary threats are straight-line damaging winds and hail, but because of the highly favorable wind profiles and low-level spin in the atmosphere, we cannot rule out an isolated tornado or two. Here is your timing breakdown. And this is the part you need to write down or screenshot. For the Pittsburgh area, the highest risk window opens Friday evening right around the time of the evening commute, roughly 5 to 8 in the evening Eastern Time. After that, things calm down significantly because the energy source, which is daytime heating, disappears after sunset. For Cincinnati and the central Ohio Valley, storms could fire up a little earlier, maybe around 3 to 4 in the afternoon Eastern Time, and push through during the evening hours. For Charleston, West Virginia, and points south, the window extends a bit later into the overnight hours, but the storms will be weakening by then. Now here is the key detail that the models are struggling with. The high-resolution models are not showing much convection, especially west of Pittsburgh, but I think they are underestimating the storm potential. We have moisture available, and when you have a shortwave trough trailing a cold front through this kind of setup, storms can fire up even with limited fuel. The marginal risk might even need to be stretched farther east because some wind and hail-producing storms could push as far as the Washington, D.C. area, Charlottesville, and even down into Richmond late Friday night into the overnight hours. But here's the thing, once the sun goes down, the fuel for these storms essentially evaporates. We do not have a lot of instability to work with, and it disappears almost immediately after dark. So the real danger window is that late afternoon into early evening period. If you are commuting home from work on Friday, anywhere from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh, have multiple ways to receive warnings. A weather radio, a phone app with severe weather alerts. Do not let this marginal risk lull you into a false sense of security. We have seen marginal risk events produce significant damage before. It only takes one rogue stronger storm to ruin your Friday evening. Now let me give you the current temperatures across the Ohio Valley in the east because the contrast with the west is absolutely striking. Cincinnati, 61 degrees, Columbus, 61, Pittsburgh, 53, Dayton, 61, Charleston, West Virginia, 61, Louisville, 68. Indianapolis is transitioning right now. Lexington, 63. Nashville, 66. These are mild temperatures, and they are going to warm up even more tomorrow. Louisville, Kentucky could be just as warm as Miami on Friday. Think about that. Louisville at 80 degrees, Miami at 71. Louisville warmer than Miami in March. That is the kind of pattern we are in. Moving into the southeast, Atlanta, 65 degrees, Birmingham, 67, Chattanooga, 67, Knoxville, 63, Charlotte, 61, Raleigh, 56, Greenville, South Carolina, 61, Columbia, South Carolina, 59, Savannah, 53, Jacksonville, 55, Orlando, 61, Tampa, 68, Miami, 71, Fort Lauderdale, 68, West Palm Beach, 66, Fort Myers, 69, St. Petersburg, 71, Tallahassee, 66, Pensacola, 63, Mobile, 63, Montgomery, 64. And notice something? Florida is actually cooler than a lot of the inland south right now. That ridge is warming up the interior more than the coastal areas. Now here is where I need to give you a heads up that most forecasters are not talking about yet. Do not skip past this part because this could be more significant than Friday's storms. Sunday, March 22nd. There is another piece of energy riding over the top of that western ridge, and it is going to come down into the Ohio Valley again. This time, the setup is more interesting, more concerning. Here is why. First, we are going to have more thunderstorm fuel available. The atmosphere is going to be more unstable with higher values of convective available potential energy, which is basically the rocket fuel that storms need to grow tall and powerful. Second, we are going to have more moisture in place. That means storms will have more to work with. Third, the wind shear profiles could support not just straight-line winds and hail, but potentially a few more tornadoes than what we expect on Friday. The Storm Prediction Center does not have an official outline yet for Sunday, but I expect they will issue one by tomorrow. And it might not be just a marginal risk. We could see a slight risk, which is a step up, covering an area from Springfield, Illinois to Indianapolis, Indiana, and then points east and south through Pittsburgh, Lexington, and Nashville. The timing for Sunday's storms would be during the afternoon heating hours, roughly noon to 7 in the evening local time, because just like Friday, once the sun goes down, the instability disappears. But during those peak heating hours, any storms that develop could produce larger hailstones, more robust updrafts, and have a better chance of producing tornadoes. This is not a huge outbreak. Nobody is saying that. But it is certainly something you need to have on your radar. I will keep you updated as the Storm Prediction Center makes their official calls. Now, let me take you through the Northeast, because while the West bakes and the Ohio Valley deals with storms, you all are dealing with a completely different set of problems. Boston, 37 degrees. New York City, 39. Philadelphia, 47. Washington, D.C., 51. Hartford, Connecticut, 37. Providence, 37. Albany, New York, 37, Syracuse, 40, Buffalo, 36, Rochester, 40, Burlington, Vermont, 36, Portland, Maine, 34, Bangor, 31, Concord, New Hampshire, 37, Manchester, New Hampshire, 37. That is a 50 to 60 degree difference between Phoenix and Boston right now, on the same day, in the same country. And the Northeast is not done with winter. As that cold front associated with Friday's storms pushes through, the Northeast is going to get cold rain along the Interstate 95 corridor from Washington, D.C., all the way up to Boston. North of that, we are talking snow. Northern New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine could see accumulating snow, and there is going to be a sharp line of winds accompanying this front. After the front passes, some lake-effect snow will kick in off the Great Lakes. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan, northern Michigan around Gaylord, and even into southern Ontario and Quebec will see snow. Toronto could go back and forth between rain and snow multiple times. Then, as we head into Sunday and early next week, another system comes through, and this one could bring heavier snow to upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. The European Ensemble model is showing greater than 6 inches of snow in some of these areas through March 28th. And this is not just lake effect. This is synoptic snow driven by the jet stream pattern. Let me read you some of the current cold temperatures across the Northeast and Great Lakes to really drive this contrast home. Marquette, Michigan, 29 degrees. Duluth, Minnesota, 32. Alpena, Michigan, 31. Traverse City, 33. Green Bay, 36. Bangor, Maine, 31. Presque Isle, Maine, 30. Montpelier, Vermont, 31. Pittsfield, Massachusetts, 32. Berlin, New Hampshire, 29. These are places that are still deep in winter's grip, while Phoenix bakes at 104. And here is the pattern forecast that tells you this is not ending anytime soon. The Climate Prediction Center outlook from March 27th through April 2nd shows the highest confidence for way above normal temperatures remaining locked in across Arizona, New Mexico, the Four Corners region, and the desert Southwest, with the warmth bleeding eastward. Meanwhile, that cold pocket from about Pennsylvania across the northern tier of the Great Lakes into Maine is expected to stay below normal. Winter could still be rolling into early April for the Northeast and Great Lakes. The European Ensemble forecast for March 29th actually shows the cold pushing back farther west, potentially toward the Mississippi River. So if you are in the upper Midwest thinking spring is here, not so fast. There could be more cold coming your way. Now let me zoom out and give you a complete picture of what is happening across the middle of the country because there are some fascinating numbers here. The Midwest. Chicago, 46 degrees. That is still cool. Milwaukee, 39. Minneapolis, 52. St. Paul, 47. Des Moines, 70. That is a 20-degree difference between Minneapolis and Des Moines. Omaha, 74. Kansas City, 78. St. Louis, 75. Springfield, Illinois, 70. Peoria, 72. Rockford, 56. South Bend, 55. Fort Wayne, 57. Grand Rapids, 49. Lansing, 44. Detroit, 44. Ann Arbor, 44. See the gradient? As you move from northwest to southeast across the Midwest, temperatures jump dramatically. That warm air from the ridge is surging northeastward while the cold from the jet stream dip fights to hold on. And that boundary, that collision zone, is exactly where the storms will fire. The Upper Plains. Pierre, South Dakota, 78 degrees. Rapid City, 80. Sioux Falls, 71. Fargo, 58. Bismarck, 67. Aberdeen, 65. These are running well above normal for late March. Let me take you through the Mountain West now because this is where the snow melt is becoming a real concern. The warm temperatures across Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho are causing dangerously fast snow melt in the mountains. When snow melts this fast, rivers run cold and fast. If you happen to be near mountain streams or rivers in the coming days, be extremely careful. The water will be much higher and much faster than normal, and it will be ice cold. Falling into a swollen mountain river in these conditions can be life-threatening within minutes. Now, this is important, and I do not want you to skip this part. The rapid snowmelt is not just a river safety issue, it is a flooding concern. When you have temperatures running 25 to 40 degrees above normal across mountain regions that still have snowpack, the melt rate can overwhelm stream banks and drainage systems. Low-lying areas near mountain rivers and creeks in Colorado, Utah, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming need to be on alert for the potential of localized flooding. This is especially true in canyon areas where snowmelt funnels into narrow channels. If you live near a mountain stream or river, keep an eye on water levels over the next several days. If you notice the water rising rapidly or becoming muddy and turbulent, move to higher ground and report it to local authorities. For hikers and outdoor enthusiasts in the Mountain West, trail conditions are going to be extremely variable. You might start a hike in dry, warm conditions and encounter snowmelt streams that were not there a week ago. Bridges and trail crossings that normally have a trickle of water underneath them could have rushing, knee-deep water. Be prepared to turn around. No hike is worth risking your life in a swollen mountain stream. And speaking of outdoor recreation, let me address the national park visitors for a moment. If you have trips planned to Grand Canyon, Zion, Arches, Canyonlands, Joshua Tree, Death Valley, or any of the Desert Southwest parks, adjust your plans. Death Valley hit 101 degrees on Thursday. Furnace Creek is at 101 right now. These parks are designed for visitors, but they are not designed for visitors who are unprepared for extreme heat. Carry at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. Tell someone where you are going and when you expect to return. Stay on marked trails, and if you start to feel dizzy, nauseous, or stop sweating, seek shade immediately and call for help. Heat stroke can kill quickly and it sneaks up on you. Let me also mention a few more Arizona cities beyond the Phoenix metro that are getting crushed by this heat. Flagstaff, 81 degrees. Now, Flagstaff sits at 7,000 feet elevation, and its normal March high is around 50. 81 is more than 30 degrees above normal. That is extraordinary for a mountain town. Prescott, 89. Sedona, 91. Cottonwood, 88. Payson, 88. Pinetop Lakeside, 82. Show Low area, similar numbers. Globe area, Clifton at 82. Winslow, 88. Page, 79. Tuba City, 82. Window Rock, 82. Chinle, 82. Even the high elevation areas of the Navajo Nation are experiencing temperatures that are more typical of late May or early June. New Mexico has similar stories. Santa Fe at 82 is remarkable for a city at 7,000 feet. Albuquerque at 90 is pushing 30 degrees above its March average. Las Cruces, 89. Socorro, 88. Roswell, 92. Carlsbad, the city not the cavern, well actually the cavern area too, Hobbs at 90. Ruidoso at 81. Ruidoso sits at almost 7,000 feet in the Sacramento Mountains, and 81 degrees there in March is almost unheard of. And for the ski industry, this is devastating news. After what many in Utah and Colorado have described as an awful winter with maybe one good week of real winter weather, this heat dome is essentially ending the season prematurely. Forget ski season. That is the reality for the Western mountains right now. Now, I want to take you through something that most people have not noticed yet, and this is the part I told you would come at the 5-minute mark. This is the forecast that could change everything for next week. Look at what happens as we push into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. There is a fast-moving system that comes across the plains and then dips down into the Tennessee Valley. And it has a setup that reminds me of a summertime pattern on the eastern side of a ridge. That is exactly what it is, except it is not summer. It is March. The warm air on the underside of this system is going to behave like summer, but the cold air on the eastern side is going to be much colder than what you would typically see with a summertime system. That contrast, that collision between summer like warmth and winter like cold, is sometimes what produces significant damaging wind events. We are talking potential for widespread damaging straight-line winds across the Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley as we go from Tuesday into Wednesday. Now, it is still too early to get into specifics on this system, but I am flagging it now because if the models continue to trend in this direction, this could be the biggest weather story of next week. All eyes should be on the Ohio Valley, the Midwest, and the Tennessee Valley as we move forward. Now, here is a question I want you to think about. How many times in your life have you seen 105 degrees in Phoenix in March? The answer for almost everyone watching is 0. This has literally never happened in most people's lifetimes. The previous record for the earliest 100-degree day in Phoenix stood for years. And we did not just tie it, we obliterated it. And then we are going to do it again on Saturday with an even higher temperature. That tells you how powerful this ridge is. That tells you this is not your typical early spring warm-up. This is a fundamentally different setup. And let me address something that some of you might be thinking. You might be saying, well, it is the desert, it gets hot. Yes, it does. But context matters. The normal high temperature in Phoenix for March 19th is around 80 degrees. We are running 24 degrees above that. Imagine if your city, wherever you are, was suddenly 24 degrees above its normal temperature. If you are in New York and your normal March high is around 50, imagine it being 74. If you are in Chicago and your normal is around 48, imagine 62. Now multiply that feeling by the fact that we are already starting from a hot baseline in Phoenix. Going from 80 to 104 is not just uncomfortable, it is dangerous. It puts immense stress on the human body, on infrastructure, on the power grid, and on water systems. For anyone planning to travel to the Southwest this weekend, here is what you need to know. If you are flying into Phoenix, Las Vegas, Tucson, or Palm Springs, pack as if you are going there in June. Bring lightweight, light-colored clothing, carry a water bottle everywhere you go. Wear a hat and sunscreen rated at least SPF 50. If you are renting a car, check that the air conditioning is working before you leave the lot. And if you are planning any outdoor activities, hiking especially, do them before 9 in the morning or after 6 in the evening. Between those hours, the heat is genuinely dangerous. If you are heading to any of the spring training baseball games in the Phoenix area this weekend, the stadiums in Goodyear, Scottsdale, Mesa, and Tempe are going to feel like you are watching a July game. Bring a portable fan, a cooling towel, and more water than you think you need. These stadiums do not all have full shade coverage, and sitting in direct sun at 105 degrees can cause heat exhaustion in as little as 30 to 45 minutes. Now let me take a moment to talk about what this means for power grids in the West. When temperatures spike this high, air conditioners run at full blast. That puts enormous demand on the electrical grid. During summer, the utilities in Arizona and California are prepared for this kind of demand. But in March, some systems may not be ramped up to summer levels yet. Rolling brownouts or even blackouts are not out of the question if demand spikes too quickly. If you live in the affected areas, consider pre-cooling your home in the early morning hours, keeping blinds and curtains closed during the day, and avoiding running major appliances during peak afternoon hours between 2 and 6 in the evening. For pet owners, a critical reminder. If the pavement is too hot for the back of your hand, it is too hot for your dog's paws. At 104 degrees, asphalt surface temperatures can exceed 150 degrees. That will cause burns and blisters on your pet's feet within seconds. Walk your dogs early in the morning or late in the evening, and always carry water for them. Before we move on, let me give you the complete rundown for the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast, because even though the heat is the big story, there is weather happening up there too. Portland, Oregon, 58 degrees. Seattle, 56. Tacoma, 53. Olympia, 54. Bellingham, 54. These are actually near normal or slightly cool for this time of year. That is because the ridge of high pressure is centered farther south and the northern edge is allowing some marine air and even some rain to push into Washington and Oregon. Spokane 64, Pullman 65, Walla Walla 73, Pendleton 70, Bend 76, Eugene 74, Medford 80, Roseburg 81, Corvallis 69, Salem 70. As you move south and inland in Oregon, temperatures jump significantly. The Rogue Valley around Medford is already at 80, which is well above normal. Along the Northern California coast, Eureka is at 62, Arcata 58. But go inland even a short distance and temperatures skyrocket. Redding 84, Chico 88. Red Bluff area is similarly hot. The marine influence keeps the immediate coast cool, but that ridge is cooking everything else. Now around the top of the ridge, we are going to continue to see some rain in Washington and maybe Oregon through the weekend. That is normal with these ridge patterns. The moisture gets deflected around the top of the high pressure, but even that is going to let up a little as we go into the weekend. Then things get really quiet on the West Coast while the heat dominates. Eventually, probably as we get into late March going into April, the ridge will weaken and we will start seeing some rain and snow return to Northern California. But for now, the western states are dry, hot, and fire-prone. Let me circle back now and give you the detailed numbers for some of the cities I have not covered yet, because I want every single person watching this to have the forecast for their area. The Gulf Coast, New Orleans, 67 degrees, Baton Rouge, 71, Biloxi, 63, Gulfport, 63, Hattiesburg, 71, Jackson, Mississippi, 72, Shreveport, 77, Lake Charles, 68, Lafayette, 67, Beaumont, 68, Galveston, 68, the Mid-Atlantic, Baltimore, 47, Annapolis, 45, Wilmington, Delaware, 42, Dover, 41, Atlantic City, 40, Trenton, 41, Newark, 39, Jersey City, 39, Virginia Beach, 42, Norfolk, 44, Newport News, 43, Richmond, 51, Charlottesville, 54, Roanoke, 56, Lynchburg, 49, Harrisonburg, 47, Fredericksburg, 53, the Carolinas, Charlotte, 61, Raleigh, 56, Durham, 56, Greensboro, 58, Winston-Salem, 59, Asheville, 59, Fayetteville, 53, Wilmington, North Carolina, 55, Myrtle Beach, 52, Charleston, South Carolina, 52, Columbia, 59, Greenville, 61, Georgia, Atlanta, 65, Savannah, 53, Augusta, 63, Macon, 64, Athens, 67, Columbus, 66, Alabama, Birmingham, 67, Montgomery, 64, Mobile, 63, Huntsville, 67, Tuscaloosa, 70, Auburn, 64, Tennessee, Nashville, 66, Memphis, 69, Knoxville, 63, Chattanooga, 67, Clarksville, 71, Murfreesboro, 67, Cookeville, 62, Kentucky, Louisville, 68, Lexington, 63, Bowling Green, 68, Hopkinsville, 68, Owensboro, 65, Paducah, 69, Arkansas, Little Rock, 77, Fort Smith, 87, Fayetteville, 79, Bentonville, 79, Batesville, 74, Missouri, Kansas City, 78, St. Louis, 75, Springfield, 76, Columbia, 79, Jefferson City, 79, Branson, 82, Joplin, 79. And now, here is something I want to really emphasize. Tomorrow, Friday, the temperatures are going to warm up even more across the eastern half of the country. Nashville could hit 80 degrees, Cincinnati could approach 80, Louisville will easily be in the upper 70s to near 80, and that warmth is the fuel that is going to power those severe storms. Let me walk you through Alaska quickly because there are some extreme numbers up there too. Anchorage, 14 degrees. Fairbanks, 2 degrees above zero. Prudhoe Bay, negative 29. Utqiagvik, negative 25. Kodiak, 16. Juneau, 32. These are cold, but for Alaska in March, some of these are actually not unusual. The extreme ones are Point Hope at -24 and Nuiqsut at -29. Those are brutal, even by Alaska standards. Hawaii is sitting in the mid-70s with some rain across the islands. Honolulu 75, Hilo 75, Kailua Kona 79. Nothing unusual there. Now let me pull this all together with your action plan for the weekend. This is the step-by-step guide based on where you live. If you are in the desert Southwest, Arizona, Southern California, Southern Nevada, this is an extreme heat risk. Limit outdoor activities between 11 in the morning and 6 in the evening. Drink water constantly, even if you do not feel thirsty. If you are heading to any of the Cactus League spring training games in Phoenix or Goodyear this weekend, prepare for brutal midsummer heat. Bring shade, bring water, take breaks. This is life-threatening heat for anyone with health conditions. Check on elderly neighbors. Never leave children or pets in vehicles. If you are in Wyoming or the northern high plains, fire danger is at critical levels. Zero outdoor burning. Secure anything that could create sparks. Have an evacuation plan if you live in a fire-prone area. If you see smoke, report it immediately. If you are in the Ohio Valley from Cincinnati to Pittsburgh, Friday evening is your danger window for severe storms. Have multiple ways to receive warnings. Know where your safe room is. If you are driving during the evening commute, pull over if a tornado warning is issued. Do not try to drive through severe storms. And then watch for a potential repeat on Sunday with possibly stronger storms. If you are in the Northeast, prepare for cold rain along the Interstate 95 corridor on Friday. If you are north of that, especially in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and upstate New York, snow is coming, possibly 6 or more inches through the end of the month. Winter is not done with you. If you are in the upper Midwest and Great Lakes, you are in the transition zone. Temperatures will fluctuate wildly. You could see 60-degree swings between the warm side and the cold side of passing fronts. Dress in layers. Keep winter gear in your car. And if you are anywhere in the Tennessee Valley or the Southern Ohio Valley, keep your eyes on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. That fast-moving system I mentioned could produce significant weather, and I will have a full breakdown as soon as the models come into better agreement. Now, here is something I want to address directly, because I know a lot of you in the West are frustrated. This winter has been terrible for snow lovers. Utah, Colorado, the Sierra Nevada, the Cascades. It has been one of the driest, warmest winters on record in many of these areas, and this heat dome is the exclamation point on a miserable season. The ridge pattern that has been parked over the West all winter has blocked storm after storm from bringing snow to the mountains. And now it is melting what little snow did fall. The ski industry is hurting. The water supply outlook is concerning. And the fire season, which usually does not ramp up until late spring or summer, is already here. We are seeing fire weather conditions in March that would be dangerous in July. The landscape is dry, the brush is cured, and all it takes is one spark. But here is the silver lining, if you can call it that. The pattern forecasts do show some signs that the ridge will weaken as we head into late March and early April. The European ensembles suggest some cooling and possibly a return of moisture to parts of the West. But it will be too late for ski season, and it may not be enough to significantly improve the drought situation. Let me hit you with a few more comparison numbers that really put this heat wave in perspective. Right now, Louisville, Kentucky at 68 degrees is warmer than Orlando, Florida at 61. Think about that. Tulsa, Oklahoma at 82 is warmer than Honolulu. Hawaii at 75. Bakersfield, California at 91 is hotter than the average July temperature in Washington, D.C. Albuquerque at 90 degrees is running about 30 degrees above its normal March high of around 60. Denver at 81 is 30 degrees above its normal March high of around 51. Palm Springs at 106 is approaching its average July high of 108. In March, Phoenix at 104 is within 2 degrees of its average June high. We have skipped spring entirely and gone straight to early summer in the desert, and the temperature swing across the country is just as dramatic. On Thursday, Phoenix hit 102 degrees, while parts of the Northeast were in the 30s. That is a 70-degree difference across the continental United States. You could be sunburned in Phoenix and shoveling snow in Vermont on the same day. Now let me give you a quick check on some additional cities I have not mentioned yet. The Florida Panhandle. Destin, 64, Fort Walton Beach, 64, Panama City, 65, Crestview, 65, Pensacola, 63. These are actually below normal for this time of year because of the cold air feeding down from the north. Central Florida, Lakeland, 64, Kissimmee, 63, Daytona Beach, 58, Cocoa Beach, 63, Melbourne, 62. These are also cooler than you would expect for mid-March in Florida, Southwest Florida. Naples, 71, Cape Coral, 69, Sarasota, 70, Bradenton, 70. These are closer to normal but still not particularly warm for this time of year. The Florida contrast is interesting because normally you would expect Florida to be one of the warmest spots in the country in March, but this pattern is actually keeping Florida cooler than places like Louisville, Nashville, and even parts of Oklahoma. The Intermountain West has some notable temperatures too. Boise, 78, Twin Falls area, 75, Sun Valley area, Jerome at 75, Pocatello, 75. These are solidly warm for Idaho in March, and the warming trend is contributing to rapid snowmelt concerns across the region. New Mexico, Albuquerque, 90, Santa Fe, 82, Las Cruces, 89, Roswell, 92, Alamogordo, 91, Hobbs, 90, Clovis, 89, Farmington, 82. The entire state is well above normal. West Texas, El Paso, 90, Midland, 89, Odessa, 88, Lubbock, 90, Amarillo, 89, and those temperatures are expected to climb even higher through the weekend. Now I want to take one more look at the longer range because what happens beyond this weekend matters a lot. The ridge is going to flatten out slightly on Sunday, March 22nd. We might lose a few degrees off the peak heat for a day, but then watch what happens. It builds right back. By the middle of next week, the ridge rebuilds over the west, and we could be talking about another round of triple-digit heat in the desert southwest. More record warmth, more fire danger, more rapid snowmelt. And on the eastern side, the jet stream pattern keeps dipping, which means more chances for cold air intrusions, more chances for snow in the Great Lakes and Northeast, and more chances for severe weather where the warm and cold air masses collide. The GFS model shows this building ridge getting into the middle of next week with ridiculously hot temperatures. Anything in the extreme anomaly range on the maps represents record-high territory. We are talking about a pattern that could keep producing records well into the last week of March. The European Ensemble is a little more aggressive about pushing the cold back toward the west as we approach the end of March. If that happens, the Midwest could see a significant temperature crash after a period of warmth. That kind of rapid temperature swing can cause its own problems, from agricultural impacts to pipe stress to simple wardrobe confusion. But one thing both models agree on is that the West stays warm and the Northeast stays cold for at least the next 10 to 14 days. This pattern is locked and loaded. Now, before I close out, let me give you the complete forecast timing one more time because I know many of you jumped in at different points. Friday, March 20th. The heat dome peaks in the desert southwest with temperatures of 100 to 107 degrees in the hottest areas. The Ohio Valley faces severe storm risk from late afternoon through the evening, roughly 3 to 8 in the evening Eastern Time. The Northeast gets cold rain and wind along the Interstate 95 corridor with snow to the north. Saturday, March 21st. Heat continues to dominate the West. Phoenix could reach 105. Fire danger remains critical in Wyoming and the northern plains. The eastern storms exit and quieter weather returns briefly to the Ohio Valley and Northeast. Sunday, March 22nd, a new round of severe weather potential develops from Springfield, Illinois through Indianapolis to Pittsburgh and south toward Nashville and Lexington. This could be more significant than Friday. Storm timing is during the afternoon heating hours, roughly noon to 7 in the evening local time. The heat out west takes a brief slight dip before rebuilding. Monday through Wednesday, the ridge rebuilds out west. More extreme heat returns. A fast-moving system develops across the plains and dips into the Tennessee Valley by Tuesday into Wednesday. This system has the potential for significant damaging winds and needs to be watched very closely, late March into early April. The pattern remains locked. West stays hot and dry. Northeast and Great Lakes stay cold with periodic snow events. The transition zone through the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, and Midwest continues to be the battleground where severe weather is possible each time a disturbance rides over the ridge. That is your complete forecast. Drop your city in the comments and I will make sure you have the latest information. Share this video with anyone you know in the affected areas because knowing the timing of these events could make the difference between being prepared and being caught off guard. And one more thing, I told you this pattern is locked in for at least 10 more days. That means we are going to be tracking multiple rounds of extreme heat, fire danger, severe storms, and winter weather over the coming week and a half. What is shaping up for the last week of March could be even more dramatic than what we are seeing right now, because that is when the European ensembles suggest the cold may push farther west and the clash between the air masses could produce an even bigger severe weather setup. I will have the full breakdown in the next video as soon as the models come into focus on that. Do not miss it. Now hold on before you go. I want to do something a little different today because I know a lot of you are watching from smaller cities and towns that never get mentioned in these forecasts. So let me run through as many as I can right now. If your city comes up, drop a comment below and let me know if these numbers match what you are seeing outside your window. Starting in the deep south, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, 71, Tupelo, 68, Oxford, 72, Batesville, 72, Macomb, 70, Vicksburg, 72, Dothan, Alabama, 65, Bruton, 65, Talladega, 66, Tuskegee, 64, Phoenix City, 66. Across Tennessee in more detail, Dyersburg, 72, Cookeville, 62, McMinnville, 64, Tullahoma, 64, Sevierville, 63, Kingsport, 57, Bristol, 52, Clarksville, 71, Murfreesboro, 67, Spring Hill, 65, Kentucky Towns, Hopkinsville, 68, Murray, 68, Bowling Green, 68, Princeton, 67, Ashland, 74, Frankfort, 63, Danville, 66, West Virginia, Charleston, 61, Huntington, 65, Morgantown, 57, Clarksburg, 55, Wheeling, 55, Indiana in more detail, Fort Wayne, 57, Evansville, 68, Terre Haute, 64, Bloomington, 64, Muncie, 59, Kokomo, 57, Lafayette, 66, South Bend, 55, Elkhart, 54, Vincennes, 64, French Lick, 69, Illinois, Springfield, 70, Peoria, 72, Champaign, 62, Bloomington, 67, Carbondale, 69, Effingham, 67, Quincy, 71, Rockford, 56, DeKalb, 54, Ohio beyond the major cities, Akron 50, Canton 51, Youngstown 45, Mansfield 52, Lima 58, Defiance 52, Worcester 50, Massillon 55, Lancaster 59, Troy 61, Mason 58, Elyria 46, Oberlin 46. Now the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast in more detail, Allentown, Pennsylvania 45, State College 46, Scranton 44, Erie 40, Altoona 50, Harrisburg 50, Lancaster, Pennsylvania 44, York 46, Reading 48, New York State, Albany 37, Syracuse 40, Rochester 40, Buffalo 36, Ithaca 38, Binghamton 39, Utica 36, Plattsburgh 35, Saratoga Springs 37, Cooperstown 36, Gloversville 37, New England in detail, Hartford, Connecticut 37, New Haven 31, Bridgeport 35, Stamford 34, Danbury 33, Springfield, Massachusetts 37, Worcester 33, Pittsfield 32, Brockton 36, Plymouth 35, Brattleboro, Vermont 33, Rutland 33, Burlington 36, Bangor, Maine 31, Augusta, Maine 31, Portland, Maine 34, Presque Isle 30, Lewiston 32, Kennebunk 33, New Jersey, Newark 39, Jersey City 39, Trenton 41, Atlantic City 40, Pennsauken 46, Morristown 41. Let me take a detour here and talk about what this pattern means for folks in the Northeast who are tired of winter. I know many of you have been counting the days until spring. You saw the calendar flip to March and thought the worst was behind you. But this jet stream pattern is telling us something different. The same ridge that is baking the West is forcing the jet stream to dip over the eastern United States. And every time that jet stream dips, it pulls cold Canadian air southward. That is why you are still seeing snow in Vermont and temperatures in the low 30s across New England. The Climate Prediction Center is saying below normal temperatures could persist from about Pennsylvania north through the Great Lakes and into Maine through at least the first week of April. That means if you are in Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, Burlington, Portland, Maine, Bangor, or anywhere in that region, winter is not loosening its grip anytime soon. You could be dealing with additional snow events, freeze-thaw cycles that damage roads and infrastructure, and continued heating costs well into what should be early spring. For gardeners and landscapers in the Northeast, do not even think about planting anything yet. The frost risk remains high. Do not be fooled by any brief warm-ups that might sneak through. The pattern keeps reloading with cold air, and one hard freeze after you have planted can wipe out everything. Now compare that to what is happening in the South and the Midwest. Tomorrow, Friday, Nashville is looking at a potential 80-degree day. Cincinnati could approach 80. Even Indianapolis, which is normally around 52 degrees this time of year, could push into the upper 60s or low 70s. 80 degrees in Nashville in March is roughly 15 degrees above normal. And that warmth is exactly the kind of energy that fuels the severe storms we are watching for tomorrow evening. Now I want to add a few more cities in the Southeast because I know I have a big audience down there. The Florida Peninsula. Gainesville 59, Ocala 63, Sebring 64, Lakeland 64, Kissimmee 63, Titusville 62, Port St. Lucie 61, Stuart 61, Vero Beach 66, Okeechobee 64, and along the Gulf Coast, Clearwater at 69, Newport Richey 75, Bradenton 70, Venice 77. Actually, let me correct that. Venice, California is at 77, Venice, Florida area, Sarasota is at 70. Apologies for any confusion there. The southwest coast of Florida is running right around 70 degrees tonight. In Georgia beyond Atlanta. Dalton, 64, Ringgold, 67, Braselton, 59, Cumming, 61, Lawrenceville, 60, Gainesville, 61, Toccoa, 59, Athens, 67, Waycross, 60, Valdosta, 60. The Carolinas have some additional cities to cover. Asheville, 59, Black Mountain, 59, Brevard, 59, Statesville, 58, Hickory, 57, Mount Airy, 55, Gastonia, 57, Spartanburg, 59, and along the coast, Jacksonville, North Carolina at 51, Kitty Hawk, 42, Manteo, 42. The Outer Banks are still quite cold, feeling more like late winter than early spring. And let me circle through some of the western cities I may have missed. In California, Santa Barbara, 76. San Luis Obispo, 84. Paso Robles, 93. Monterey, 70. Salinas, 79. Santa Cruz, 88. Santa Maria, 79. Lompoc, 80. Oxnard, 75. Camarillo, 82. Thousand Oaks, 82. San Diego, 74. Escondido, 91. El Cajon, 91. Carlsbad, 76. Oceanside, 76. Poway, 91. Temecula, 84. Oregon. Astoria, 56. Coos Bay, 62. Lincoln City, 59. Newport, 59. Bend, 76. Pendleton, 70. Hermiston, 71. Mosier, 72. Ontario, 79. East Washington. Spokane, 64. Yakima, 72. Wenatchee, 70. Ellensburg, 62. Walla Walla, 73. Bellingham, 54. Everett, 53. Olympia, 54. Now let me give you something that will really blow your mind. I want you to think about the temperature difference between some of these paired cities right now. Phoenix at 104 versus Marquette, Michigan at 29. That is a 75-degree difference. Two cities in the same country on the same day, and one is hotter than the hottest day most people in Marquette will ever experience, while the other is below freezing. Palm Springs at 106 versus Presque Isle, Maine at 30. 76-degree difference. Las Vegas at 91 versus Duluth at 32. 59-degree difference. Denver at 81 versus Green Bay at 36. 45-degree difference. Albuquerque at 90 versus Burlington, Vermont at 36, 54-degree difference. These are not normal March temperature spreads. This pattern is amplified, it is exaggerated, and that amplification is what makes it so dangerous, because it is the contrast between the air masses that powers severe weather. Let me also mention something for the agricultural community, because this matters to food prices for everyone. The early heat across the plains and Midwest is pushing vegetation to green up and bloom earlier than normal. Fruit trees in places like the Central Valley of California, the Ozarks, and parts of the Mid-Atlantic are starting to bloom, and that is terrifying. Because if this heat breaks and a late-season freeze comes in, which is entirely possible given the cold locked into the northern tier, those blooms will be killed. And that means a devastating loss for fruit crops. Peaches, apples, cherries, even grapes are all at risk. Farmers and ranchers across the southern plains are also dealing with extreme drought conditions made worse by this heat. The combination of well above normal temperatures and near zero rainfall is stressing winter wheat. Cattle ranchers are already hauling water and supplementing feed in areas that should have green pasture by now. And for anyone dealing with allergies, this early warm-up is triggering an early and intense pollen season across the South and the Mid-Atlantic. Tree pollen is already at high levels in places like Atlanta, Nashville, and Charlotte. If you are sensitive to pollen, this is going to be a rough few weeks. Now, I want to come back to fire weather because I do not think people appreciate how serious this situation is. The fire danger is not limited to Wyoming. Let me expand that picture for you. The entire Intermountain West is primed for fire. The winter snowpack that normally keeps the landscape moist well into spring is either gone or disappearing rapidly. Grass that grew during the fall is now cured and dry. The relative humidity across the Great Basin, the Colorado Plateau, and the High Plains is in the teens or even single digits in some places. All it takes is one careless campfire, one downed power line, one dragging chain, one tossed cigarette, and we could have a significant wildfire on our hands. And with winds gusting to 35 to 45 miles per hour in the terrain-favored areas, a fire that starts in the morning could be thousands of acres by nightfall. The National Weather Service has red flag warnings posted for central and eastern Wyoming, but fire weather watches and warnings could expand into parts of Montana, Colorado, Utah, and even the Dakotas as this heat persists. If you live in a wildfire-prone area anywhere in the western United States, now is the time to clear brush from around your home, make sure you have an evacuation bag packed, and know your escape routes. Let me also run through a few more cities in the plains that I want to make sure get covered. Sioux City, Iowa, 78 degrees. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, 71. Yankton, 72. Pierre, 78. Rapid City, 80. Brookings, 69. Aberdeen, 65. Fargo, 58. Grand Forks, 45. Minot, 58. Bismarck, 67. Dickinson, 71. Williston, 61. Miles City area, Billings is at 72. These plains states are running anywhere from 10 to 25 degrees above normal, and the warmth is being felt all the way up into the Canadian border region. Iowa, Des Moines, 70. Cedar Rapids, 65. Iowa City, 65. Ames, 65. Waterloo, 63. Dubuque, 55. Mason City, 57. Grinnell, 64. The warmth in Iowa is notable because it is feeding moisture northward from the Gulf of Mexico, and that moisture is going to be part of what fuels the severe weather potential over the weekend. Wisconsin is the dividing line between the warm and cold air masses. Milwaukee, 39. Madison, 47. Green Bay, 36. Appleton, 37. Oshkosh, 36. Sheboygan, 35. Wausau, 42. Eau Claire, 50. La Crosse, 51. Kenosha, 37. Racine, 37. The southern and western parts of Wisconsin are warming up while the lakeside cities remain stubbornly cold. That Lake Michigan influence is keeping temperatures in the 30s along the eastern shore. Michigan, Detroit, 44. Grand Rapids, 49. Kalamazoo, 51. Lansing, 44. Ann Arbor, 44. Flint, 45. Saginaw, 34. Traverse City, 33. Alpena, 31. Marquette, 29. Escanaba, 32. Iron Mountain, 38. The Upper Peninsula is still locked in winter conditions while the southern part of the state is slowly warming. But even southern Michigan is running well below the temperatures being felt just a few hundred miles to the south and west. Minnesota, Minneapolis, 52, St. Paul, 47, Rochester, 54, Duluth, 32, Bemidji, 53, International Falls, 48, Mankato, 53, Red Wing, 48, Moorhead, 58, Faribault, 48. The range across Minnesota is impressive, from 32 in Duluth to 58 in Moorhead. The warm air is pushing in from the west and south, but the cold is holding on in the northeast corner of the state, near Lake Superior. Now let me give you one more round of Texas cities because Texas is a huge state and there are a lot of people who need these numbers. Tyler, 78, Longview, 77, Nacogdoches, 74, Texarkana, 81, Sherman, 81, Corsicana, 81, Temple, 84, Killeen 82, Bryan College Station 79, Conroe 77, the Woodlands area, Tomball is at 78, Beaumont 68, Orange 67, Victoria 73, Uvalde 84, Junction 84, San Marcos 82, Kyle 82, Brownsville 75, and down in the Rio Grande Valley, McAllen at 85 and Laredo at 87. Notice that the hottest temperatures in Texas are in the western half of the state. The Permian Basin and the Panhandle are pushing into the upper 80s and low 90s. The Gulf Coast is more moderate in the 60s and 70s due to the marine influence. But everywhere in Texas is above normal for this time of year. All right, I have thrown a massive amount of information at you in this video. Let me give you the absolute bottom line one more time. The western United States is in the grip of a historic March heat dome with temperatures 25 to 40 degrees above normal. Records are falling daily. Fire danger is critical. Snowpack is melting at dangerous rates. The ski industry is essentially done for the season. The Ohio Valley faces severe thunderstorm risk on Friday evening with damaging winds and possible tornadoes, with the peak danger window between 3 and 8 in the evening Eastern Time. Then a potentially stronger threat develops on Sunday afternoon from Springfield, Illinois, through Indianapolis to Pittsburgh and south toward Nashville. The Northeast is stuck in winter with more cold, rain, and snow coming through the end of March and possibly into early April. 6 or more inches of snow are possible in parts of upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine through March 28th. And looking ahead, a fast-moving system next Tuesday through Wednesday could produce significant damaging winds across the Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley. That one needs to be on everyone's radar. This pattern is locked in for at least 10 to 14 more days. Multiple rounds of extreme weather are coming. I will be here every single day, breaking it down for you city by city, hour by hour. One more critical thing before I go. What is setting up for the final week of March has the potential to be a much bigger, severe weather story than anything we have seen so far this spring. The European ensembles are hinting that the cold could push farther west while the ridge rebounds even stronger. When those two air masses collide with that kind of intensity, the severe weather potential goes up dramatically. I am talking about the possibility of a more widespread severe weather outbreak covering multiple states. It is too early to call it, but all the ingredients are trending in that direction. The next video is going to break that down in full detail, and you absolutely do not want to miss it. Drop your city name in the comments below right now. Tell me what it is like outside your door. Are you baking in the heat, freezing in the cold, watching the storms roll in? I read every single comment, and it helps me tailor these forecasts to exactly where you are. Share this video with your family and friends in the affected areas. Preparation saves lives. Knowing the timing of these events, knowing exactly when the storms hit your neighborhood, that is the difference between being ready and being caught off guard. Now I know I have covered a massive amount of ground today, so let me do a rapid-fire summary of the most critical information one final time. If you are in Phoenix, Tucson, Yuma, Palm Springs, or anywhere in the desert Southwest, this is a life-threatening heat event. 100 to 107 degrees through the weekend. Stay indoors during peak heat. Hydrate constantly. Check on elderly neighbors. If you are in Southern California from Los Angeles to San Bernardino to Riverside, temperatures in the mid-90s to low 100s. This is not typical March heat. Treat it like a summer heat wave. If you are in Las Vegas, temperatures pushing toward the mid-90s. If you are visiting for a convention or vacation, plan indoor activities during the afternoon. If you are in Denver, Colorado Springs, Salt Lake City, or Boise, you are seeing temperatures in the upper 70s to low 80s. Enjoy it, but be aware that rapid snowmelt means dangerous river conditions in the mountains. If you are in Wyoming, critical fire danger, 0 outdoor burning, period. If you are in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Oklahoma City, or Tulsa, temperatures in the upper 70s to upper 80s. Warm, but manageable. Stay alert for any watches or warnings that may extend into your area over the weekend. If you are in Kansas City, Omaha, Des Moines, or the Central Plains, you are in the warm sector with temperatures in the 60s to upper 70s. The severe weather risk is just to your east, so keep an eye on things. If you are in Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, Pittsburgh, or anywhere in the Ohio Valley, Friday evening is your severe weather window, 3 to 8 in the evening Eastern Time. Then Sunday afternoon brings a potential repeat with possibly stronger storms between noon and 7 in the evening. If you are in Nashville, Louisville, Lexington, or the Tennessee Valley, you are warm now, but watch Sunday closely and start paying attention to Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. If you are in Atlanta, Charlotte, Raleigh, or the broader Southeast, mild temperatures in the upper 50s to upper 60s. No major weather threats, but stay tuned as the pattern continues to evolve. If you are in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, or Washington, D.C., cold rain and wind coming Friday. Bundle up. Winter is hanging on. If you are in Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, Burlington, Portland, Maine, or anywhere in the northern tier, snow is still in the forecast, possibly significant amounts through the end of the month. And if you are in Florida, you are actually running cooler than much of the interior South right now. Enjoy the pleasant temperatures because they are not going to last forever. That covers it. Every region, every major city, every threat, every timeline. This is what I do every single day, and I am going to keep doing it as long as this pattern holds. The next 10 to 14 days are going to be eventful across this entire country, and I am going to make sure you are never caught off guard. Stay safe out there. March 2026 is throwing